Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Sunday Night Live with me, Jonny Lipsham, here in Edinburgh, in Scotland, the capital of the world, the universe, and everything else. I hope everyone's had a great week. Been a busy one for me. Kids have been off on a half-term holiday, so they've been at home with me for the whole week. And so it's been pretty busy keeping them occupied and still trying to do my job as well at the same time. So it's been chaos. Also, my daughter had soccer camp, and the venue for that was 3 miles away. And I've not driven a car in 30 years nearly. And so we walked. And so 3 miles there, 3 miles back. So, 6 miles every day for the whole week of walking and also doing my job and keeping them entertained made me very, very tired. So I'm very glad that this weekend for me, for here in the UK, is a long weekend. So that means I have had Saturday with my feet up doing nothing. I have today mostly done nothing. And tomorrow I will not be working either. So yay! I'm very happy about that. So looking forward to doing nothing for the day tomorrow. My kids are going to be out with their friends. They've organized a trip before all of this new tiered lockdown system comes into force this coming week. So that's been hastily organized. So I am going to be home alone and doing pretty much nothing for the day, which is great. Looking forward to it. Can't wait. In the meantime, we have 16 people in here, which is great. Now, our clocks have already gone back. So, it is now 11 p.m. here for me, so normally I do my show at midnight. But because I like to keep the time of my show regular for you guys in the United States, particularly if you're in the Central Time area, I like to try and keep it to 6 p.m. Central Time, regardless of what happens with our clocks. So this week, it's 11 p.m. if you're in the UK. But I think your clocks go back in a couple of weeks. So next week will also be 11 p.m. UK time and 6 p.m. Central. And then after that, it goes kind of back to kind of the normal gap, which is cool. So looking forward to that. Did you fall back as well? Yes, we did. We certainly did. So that's all that taken care of, and you guys fall back next week. All right, so next week's show, I think, because I think it happens on a Saturday for you guys, does it? I think it's a Saturday at 2 o'clock in the morning or some absurd time like that. That being the case, probably Sunday's show will be back at, if you are a UK viewer, it will be back at the normal time. I think we only do this for like 1, maybe 2 weeks tops. So it's next week that they go back. Saturday into Sunday. Yes, Saturday night. So basically 2 o'clock Sunday morning. So Sunday night show next week should be at the more normal time. So if you're a UK viewer, you are getting an extra specially early show this week. But next week, it will all be back to the usual kind of midnight time for us here in the UK and in the kind of Central Europe time zone. Anywhere in the world that follows the Greenwich Meridian, falls in that particular parallel. Then, yeah, and you are on GMT and BST in the summertime. If you're in that particular time zone, it will be midnight. Otherwise, if you're in the central time zone of the United States, it'll be 6 p.m. If you're in Eastern, it'll be, I think, 5 p.m. And is it 8 p.m., I think, in Pacific? I think. Something like that. Anyway. So that's kind of what's going to happen next week. So tonight, as you can see by the graphic that I put up at the start here, that we are looking at Studio One 5, although it really should say 5.1. I just haven't edited the graphic to say 5.1. But yeah, that's what we're going to kind of look at, seeing as that came out on Tuesday. And it looks like it's been a pretty good launch. And there have been virtually no issues that I know of, no major ones anyway, that I know of in 5.1. A couple of minor ones, but nothing major to report. For some folks, you are seeing plugin GUIs that are either completely black or completely white, one or the other. And for some of you, you may have been seeing Melodyne, the Melodyne editor, doing that as well. The answer to that question, the answer to that problem, the solution, there you go, I got the word in the end. The solution is to go to, if you're on a Mac, go Preferences, General, and then in the General tab, uncheck the hardware acceleration button. If you're on Windows, it's going to be Options, General, and in the General tab, you will then go and uncheck the high DPI button, box even. And then you close Studio One, you restart your computer, whether it's Mac or PC, and everything should be normal. And hopefully your GUIs will be restored just by that action. I have worked with a few people just over the course of the weekend, and since we launched on Tuesday, where they've been reporting this, and very quickly that has fixed their problem. So if you're seeing that, that's the answer. So there you go. And let's go up to the top of the chat. Kyle was in first at 1:45 the hour. He says, hello, 51 Fahrenheit, cloudy here, maybe some light rain. Subvids, I think you're new to my channel. Welcome, I'm glad you're here. I hope you get a lot out of what we do here. Diego says, that John Cage 4 minutes 33 song while we play sounds awesome. Whilst we wait, sounds awesome. Yeah, the calm before the storm, the quiet. Absolutely. And then I said, showtime in 10 minutes, when it kind of was just a little over 10 minutes. Oh, dear. Excuse me. I don't know where that came from. Let's see. Ken Moss is here. Just Bob is also here. Thomas in the Philippines is here. Who else do we have? Mike is here. Bobby Booth is here. Lowens is here as well. Budman672 is here. Awesome. Glad to have you here. Jaro Hernandez is here. He says, many from when I don't have to work, I find something to do. Can't stay quiet. Yeah, well, you see, you're just kind of a diligent kind of guy. And that's good. DJ Vivaldi is here. He says, hello, JLS and everyone. Are you taking questions from the chat? Yes, absolutely. That's what we do with this show. And Mike answers that as well. He says, yes, he does. Just write at Jonny Lipsham Studios in front of the question, and I'll get to it. Yep, absolutely. My mods are awesome. Ken and Mike and Tim are my moderators, and they are fantastic. They will keep you right, and they will make sure that the chat runs nice and smoothly. And sometimes if I'm in the middle of doing something, if I'm demonstrating something or answering another question, they will pitch in and answer questions for me, which is great because they are extremely knowledgeable bunch of guys, and I appreciate them extremely. Let's see. What's Sub's question? How do I subdivide a groove? Going from 4/4 to triplets is okay using quantize. But what about 5 and say 7 beats per bar, keeping the same pulse? So are you talking about quintuplets and septuplets? So seven notes per beat? Or are you talking about a time signature change of to 5/4 or 7/4? Is that what you're talking about? If you can give me that information, because there are different answers, whichever way you look at it. So if you're talking about the one, there's going to be a different answer than the other. So I kind of need to know which one it is you're referring to. Thomas says there's a typhoon here. Wow, good grief. Passing over me right now, but giving lots of rain and windy conditions. So hopefully not too bad of a typhoon there, Thomas. I hope you are okay and hunkering down. Okay, Sub says yes. Okay, yes to which? Because I said which one? Not 5/4 and 7/4. Okay, so you're talking about quintuplets and septuplets. That's actually really straightforward. So I'm going to show you that. Let me just get my song set up. Just a minute. Let's go to the start page. New song. We'll locate that, and we'll get impact into this song. And I'll just select a kit. Let me get my Tom Brecklin drums. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Let's just flip over to Studio One. Here we go. So we have impact up here. So all right, and I was doing that on my Atom SQ. But that is very, very cool. So I'm just going to double click in here to create an event, and then we'll go over here and edit it like that. And we'll maybe, let's see, minimize that a little bit. Stretch that out so it's a little 8-bar groove. There we go. So set the zoom states differently here. And there's a reason why I have done that. So at the moment we are set to 16th notes. And I just have to try and remember how to do this, but there is definitely a way in which you can do it. I just can't remember how to do it. So, but there is a way definitely to set this to septuplets. 16th, 7th, 8th. I just can't remember which one of these options it is. Not that. No, it's not that option. Let's go back to regular 16ths. I'll find this in just a second, but there is definitely a way to do this, and you can set the I just can't remember how to do it. But it can absolutely definitely be done, because I have done it before. I can't remember how to do it. Cannot remember how to do it. I have done this before. I just can't remember how to do it. I can't remember how to do this. But it can definitely be done. I've done this before. And that's what is frustrating me at the moment, is that there is definitely a way to set this to septuplets or quintuplets, and I just can't remember how to damn well do it. I don't think it's that, is it? No, it's not that. No, I can't remember how to do it. Because that's 16th note triplets. I can't remember how to do it. Ken says he thinks it's 16th, 7 to 8. 7 to 8. You think it is? You think it's this setting here? It doesn't look right to me. I don't see 7 counts here. I don't see 7 subdivisions between each beat. That's the thing, and that's what we're wanting to see. So I don't think that's it. And it's not that. That's interesting. When you do 5, you can do it. Look. 5 to 4. So maybe is there a 7 to 4? No, only 5 to 4. So you can definitely do quintuplets. Quintuplets is definitely doable, and that's probably what I've seen before. The cue in the action bar by the macro icon, then you pick your grid. You're talking about this here? Ah, yes, of course. So you can set that to septuplets, but it doesn't change the grid. So I just hit apply and it did nothing. And I don't see 7 subdivisions. See, look, 1, 2, 3. So that can't be right either. Hit the cue, grid, and quantize settings. Yeah, I've just done that, and there are no subdivisions for 7/16. Look, count. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, they're unevenly spaced out, but they are not the same. There's no 7 there, so we know that can't be right. Mike says zoom in, zoom out. I just did. And there's no 7s. Look, see? I would expect there to be 7 subdivisions here, and there aren't. All right, there's bar 2, beat 3, beat 4. For this to be a septuplet, there should be 7 subdivisions here, and there aren't. So this setting can't be septuplets. So even if I zoom massively out here, look, see? There are not 7 subdivisions there. For this to be septuplets, you need 7 subdivisions between each quarter note, and there aren't, so that can't be correct. So yeah, that can't possibly work. Okay, let's try septuplet. Setting that to 30-second notes seems to make them appear. By the look of it, yes. So yeah, okay, so for the 7 to work, Stephen Stabile, I think your name is. You are quite correct. Well done. You set it to 30-second notes, and now the subdivisions appear. So that certainly did that. And then you could do it up here as well, as you rightly point out. Set that to there. But you have to set that into 30-second notes by the look of it. And apply. That didn't work. Or did it? Yes, that worked. That worked. Yes, so now that works. I was hoping to go from 4s to 5s to 7s and back to 4s. Yeah, I don't think you can do that as yet. Unless you're prepared to change it each time for each bar. I know what you're wanting to do. You're wanting to do like an accelerating kind of drum roll kind of thing. I think that's what you're trying to do. But yeah, I don't think you can quite do that as yet. It doesn't quite work like that as yet. However, you might be able to do it in the score editor. You might be able to create some different tuplets in the score editor. I am not 100% sure. That's a slow. Let's see. Pull up a bit. No, you can't do it here yet. You can do it in Notion. That much I do know. You can do quintuplets, septuplets, whatever tuplet you want in Notion. But it looks like in Studio One you can't change it like you want to as yet. Mika says, select the group on notes you want quantized. You don't have to quantize all notes. Yes, and Mika, please don't do hello ? I do not appreciate that. You know, that's just rude. And I'm sorry. If you don't like that, then I'm sorry. But yeah, you can absolutely select the group of notes that you want quantized. You don't have to quantize everything. You don't have to set like one whole quantized value. Mika is quite correct on that point. For sure. But yeah, the hello with the question mark is inappropriate. All right, so I hope that helps answer that question. Ken says, I worked on MIDI runs using septuplet and quintuplet and different note lengths, but I haven't found a way to change the grid measure by measure. Yeah, I don't think there is as yet. But yeah, maybe this would be a good point to go and make a feature request, I would suggest. And go from there. Make a feature request. And you never know. Might get added. It might get added to a future update. Diego, it says, how do I copy and paste automation edits from one track to another? That's a good question. I don't really do a whole lot of automation, to be really honest. I know that there are different genres of music where you do a lot of automation, like R&B, a lot of commercial pop stuff, rock. You probably do a fair amount of automation. The music that I work in, I don't really do very much. I'll maybe do a little bit of a volume ride here and there. Like if I have like a saxophone solo that I want to kind of have it as a feature, but not get in the way of vocal ad-libs as well, then I will do volume automation between the two so that they, they are a little further forward at different points compared to the vocals. So they are kind of like moving in and out of each other's space. But other than that, I don't really tend to do a lot of automation. But you should be able to copy and paste automation. I've certainly seen it done within a track, like on a vocal track. If you have like the same automation for a verse or a chorus. In fact, here's a fun little thing for you: the arranger track. If you're using the arranger track and you want to duplicate your verse or duplicate your chorus, you can do that. And any automation will get moved with it. The same with if you duplicate an event. Generally speaking, if you duplicate the event, it should duplicate any automation that goes with that. So, if you have a vocal track, you have a vocal event, and you do some volume rides or some panning rides or whatever on that particular event, and then you select that event and hit the D key, it should duplicate the automation for that as well. So it should work, generally speaking, like that all the time. Mike says, when you right click on the timeline and see where it says bars, what is that drop down menu that pops up from that? When it says bars. Okay, hang on. Are you talking about here when you say bars? You've got all these quantized values. Yeah, this is for the time base. So, you know, you can set it in that if you want to. And that quantizes everything to this particular value. Or you can have 16-note triplets or 8-note triplets. You can have whatever you want. It's, you know, it's just the quantized settings. Is that what you're referring to? Yeah, Miki, you may be right. You may well be right that automation, duplicating automation is only on the same track. Yeah, but yes, you can certainly copy it and paste the points to a new automation link. Isn't that what Subvids is trying to do? No, what he wants to do is he wants to be able to do straight sixteenths into quintuplets into septuplets and then back down again, kind of like a pyramid, I suppose. Kind of like going up in tuplet value and then back down again. Over the space of a measure or two or whatever it is. But Mika actually had the correct answer there. Right click on the timeline. Mika, why do you want me to right click on the timeline? Okay, that's what that opens up. Hey, Bob Studios, you're here. Good to see you. Welcome. We're into questions straight away. Mike, it's okay. You don't need to apologize. Absolutely. Not a problem. We're all kind of like trying to solve the same problem. So yeah. So what he wants to do is he wants to be able to ramp it up and then ramp it down again, I guess. And yeah, so the only way really to do that is to select your notes each time and then change the quantized value each time and then back down again. But yeah, that's at the moment the only way you can do it. But yeah, there are some very, very cool features. I kind of went over some of these in my overview video, but they certainly bear looking at in a little bit more detail tonight on tonight's show. So if there's a particular feature in 5.1 that you have seen in the video that I did that you would like to see in a little bit more detail, because I did kind of rush over them to basically keep that video nice and compact and short to give a little bit of an overview. Whereas in these live streams, we have a whole hour, so we can go into a little bit more detail on each one of those features. So if there's anything you would like to look at, then we can certainly do that. One of my favorites actually is the secondary ruler. And you know, having the signature track and tempo track and all of that, having all of this under one little box here. Now, if you expand this section, that box opens up. It's very, very cool into individual icons. But if you just squish it up a little bit, and that allows you to basically have all of those icons available to you in a nice, convenient little button. I like that. Did I start early? Yes, I did, because the show is always at 6 p.m. Central Time. I kind of said that at the start. Is that regardless of the time of year, I try to keep my show to 6 p.m. Central Time, because the vast majority of folks that are watching this are in the United States. Now, granted, Alan, you are in Glasgow, just down the road from me, so our clocks have gone back. Whereas in the United States, theirs go back next week. So when we hit that particular point, I shift my show back an hour to make sure that it is always at 6 p.m. Central Time. That way, people can kind of schedule their Sunday accordingly, and things don't get, kind of messed up too terribly much. Let's see. Mika says, right-clicking on the timeline will allow you to set the resolution of the grid in bars mode. That is correct. Yep. Right-click that. You got time base. In bars mode, you can set the quantized resolution there. Absolutely. Very handy. Now, this secondary ruler. This is really handy if you're into film score. Or you have to work to time. So if you are given a particular task, a particular piece of music that you are tasked with writing has to be done to a certain length of specific time, and this is most common in television or film, but sometimes also radio commercials as well. They have to be really a very specific length. Sometimes down to the fraction of a second, because it has to be timed with some other event that's either on the screen or in the radio commercial somewhere. Cleon is here. Hello, Cleon. Good to see you. Well, it's 7:37 in Trinidad, so it's great either way. Well, you are a very lucky man. 5-stroke roll could be a tuplet depending on how it's played. Yes, 5-stroke rolls are tuplets. They are quintuplets, being that it's a 5-stroke roll. So, but if we're talking a 5-stroke rough, then the 4 strokes before it. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5th one is the accent. And that's the downbeat. So you have the 4 preceding notes, and then you have the downbeat. And those are grace notes. So if it's played as a rough, then the downbeat is accented, and the other ones are grace notes. However, a 5-stroke roll is a little bit different, because those are not grace notes most of the time. Most of the time they are specific note values. So yeah. But you are quite correct. So having this in seconds is very helpful if you have to work to time. But you may also have to work to frames as well. And you can change that here. And you can have that set to frames, which is very, very handy. But you can also have it set to a different setting. You can have this set to a different resolution as well if you want to, or you can have it set to samples. So whichever is convenient for you. If I have the secondary ruler open, I have it set to seconds for the most part. And then of course you can have the signature track. Signature track is very cool because with the signature track you can insert a time signature, or you can insert a key signature. So let's say this particular song was in the key of E flat, for example. So right at the start here, it says 4/4 E flat. Okay, so we're in 4/4 E flat, and then we get to bar 17. And let's say here we want to change time signature. So you right click and choose time signature. Let's say we make this 7/8, for example. And then we go OK. But let's say at this point also, hang on. Let's say at this point also we want to insert a new key signature. Let's say we want to go to the key of F at that point as well. So now from bar 15 we are in 4/4 in the key of E flat. And then in just a second when we get to bar 17 it's going to change. See how the key signature changed and the time signature changed, and now we are in 7/8. As you can see, it's counting to 7 there. So that is incredibly handy. Ken asks, can you set the second ruler to septuplets and the other to regular 16ths? That's a good question. Let's try that, shall we? So let's set this other one to bars and the 7/16. Doesn't look like you can. Hang on, let's go back to the beginning. No, it doesn't look like you can. Looks like it just mirrors the other one. So that looks like that does not work. But still, that's an excellent idea. So yeah, that doesn't actually work. That would be a great little feature request. Gotta say. DJ Vivaldi says, what about the upgrade Studio One to 5.1? Yeah, this is what we're looking at right now. This is Studio One 5.1. And we've looked a little bit at the signature track, which is very, very cool. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to here, and we're going to change the key signature, and we're going to go back to E flat. But we're also going to... hang on, why won't this work? It's because I'm not clicking the right place. Let's insert a new time signature back to 4/4. And there we go. You can change that pretty easily from one key signature and one time signature to another really easily. I wish Studio One would have better video integration. Well, actually, it's fairly good at the moment, and certainly it's better than it has ever been. There is no video track as yet. Who knows when that will make an appearance? But it is in answers.presonus.com. There is a feature request for that. If you want to see a video track, go and upvote that feature request. The more votes it gets, the more chance it has of being added into a future build of Studio One. But certainly one thing you can do, and you have been able to do since Studio One 4.5, is you can export video. So you can bring your video in, and it just appears as one player at the moment. There's no track for it, but it appears as one player. You can add your Foley sound effects, your music bed, your voiceover track, whatever it is that you need to add to that particular picture, and then you can export the whole darn thing. So you can go to song and export video. It's grayed out right now because there's no video in this song. But you can hit export video, and it exports to whatever particular file type that your operating system supports. So MP4 perhaps, or .mov or something like that. So yeah, that's what you can do right now. But yeah, there is no video track yet. Alan says, could you impart your wisdom and tell me how I can audition MIDI files in the browser if possible? And if so, how do you set it up? Good question. Good question. Let's go to loops and see, do I have any MIDI loops? It's a good question. Because I think these are all audio loops. Yeah, these are all audio loops. Let me see if I can actually find a MIDI loop. Let's see if I've got them in files. Sound sets. I think these are all audio loops. Pretty sure they are. Let's see. Let's have a look in loops. I think these are all audio loops. Yeah, these are all audio loops. Yeah, nice bit of Tom Breckline drumming there. These are all audio loops, but they are absolutely, as you can see, absolutely playable inside Studio One. Do I have anything that would help here? That is a good question. All right, let's export something. and then we'll see if we can play it as a MIDI file. So if I was to go, let's see, let's close that for right now, and we'll open up this folder, and what will we do? Let's see. Let's get rid of this. And let's set up our click. Let's make sure we've got our 2-bar count in, which we have. Any song you have that used instrument tracks have MIDI file or loop available. Yep, you're absolutely right. Let's go back to my other song. Oh, I'm not going to be in pool because that's all audio. Oh. But it's fairly easy to just knock something up. This tempo is going to be very slow though. Kind of vaguely in time. I'd forgotten I'd set the tempo that slow. Well, that's okay. Let's double click all of this. Let's go to our drum editor. And then we'll go Control A. And we'll set this to just regular 16ths. And we'll go Q. All right, that will do just fine. Now what we'll do is we'll go and we'll drag this into this file here, and I think is it Control that you hit? Yes. There we go. So now I've saved this into this folder as an impact file, and then you just hit the play button down the bottom here. So if you've used impact, as I did here, it saved it as impact.mid, and it saved the setting as well. So even the drum kit that I used. So I could completely just remove track and instrument, and it goes blank. See? You can't play it unless you've actually got the player installed here. So if I just do Control Z, that brings it back, and now you can play it again. So you have to have the track available to play it, the instrument installed, instantiated. That's the word I'm looking for. You have to have the instrument instantiated in here. Using Studio One's browser, you have access to all of your .song MIDI files. Yes, you do. That is also correct. But yeah, that would mean I'd have to go and go through all my files and try and find that particular song. But yeah, Mika is absolutely correct. Subvideo says, I still use Studio One 4, a bit hesitant of upgrading, hearing of reports of crashing. Some people have experienced crashing. In most cases, their crashes are to do with their third-party plugins. Some crashes have not been to do with that. They've been to do with other things, other system-related things. Most of the cases that I have handled, it's been to do with something on their computer, like antivirus or anti-malware, or a VPN or a proxy server has caused crashing. Melodyne's been crashing if you're using antivirus software or you have an ad blocker. Those can affect the ARA service in Studio One. So quite oftentimes those have been the crashes. If you know how to analyze a crash report, if you're on a Mac, when that little crash report is generated, have a read through and see where the crashed thread is, because the crashed thread will tell you exactly what has caused the crash, for the most part. Sometimes it doesn't give you a whole lot of information. Sometimes it will tell you point blank, it's X plugin that's crashed. Like, I don't know, Slate Digital's VMR, for example. That might be what it is that's crashed, a particular thread. It's usually thread 0, but sometimes it can be much further down. But yeah, the crash thread, you go find that, and then you can see what has caused the crash. Sometimes it'll say something like Studio One, or it might say CCL GUI or something like that. And that's to do with something in the graphics has caused Studio One to crash. And those are kind of not necessarily the most helpful crash reports because they don't give you a lot of information. If you're on a PC, what happens if you have a crash like that is a DMP file is generated. And if you have something like Visual Studio, something like that, you can drag that DMP file into Visual Studio and it will analyze your crash. Or you can use something called WinDebug. I have that. And what WinDebug will do is it will analyze the DMP file and it will figure out what caused the crash, and then it will tell you. And quite a lot of the time it tells me it's a particular third-party plugin, or sometimes it just says Studio One. And when it says that, there's not really a lot of information to go on because that's a very big, broad thing. And in that case, the solution to that is to take big strokes at it and go, okay, all it's telling me is Studio One has crashed inside itself. In which case, you can try uninstalling Studio One, reinstalling it, or you can try deleting your settings files with the exception of your user license file, and then relaunch Studio One. You may have to reactivate when that happens. But what will happen is when you relaunch Studio One and you reactivate, it will rewrite the settings files. And it could be that settings files have got a bit messed up. That can happen sometimes. So there can be different reasons for different crashes. It doesn't necessarily, software crashing does not necessarily mean that it is the software that is unstable. It just means that something that is operating inside of the software has caused a crash. Now, there are some pieces of software, some pieces of software that actually components that are within it have a sandboxing facility, which basically means it doesn't take the software down when it crashes. When a component crashes, it doesn't take the software down. It goes into the sandbox. And when that happens, the software continues to run, but that particular component has crashed. And you'll get a warning message or something like that. Studio One does not have that. So what happens is if a third-party plugin crashes for whatever reason, and there can be a million reasons why a third-party plugin would crash, it doesn't necessarily mean that the third-party plugin is bad. It means that it has, for whatever reason, in this particular case, just crashed. And what happens is that it takes the whole software down with it. So Studio One completely crashes, not just that plugin. So it doesn't necessarily mean that Studio One is unstable or Studio One is full of bugs or Studio One is bad. It just means some third-party plugins have some coding in it that can go occasionally a little bit screwy. And when that happens, I needed to go over to the other camera. Sorry about that. When that happens, you just need to take a little look at what's causing it. And it might be a particular action you are doing at that particular time that is causing that crash. So I have personally found Studio One 5.1 to be the extremely stable. Extremely stable. It's pretty darn rock solid. And to be honest, our QA guys over in Hamburg and our development team are super fast at finding issues and fixing them. So really, there isn't any reason to not upgrade, to be honest. You know, if you want access to all of the new features, and I've kind of only covered like 2 of them tonight, there are loads of others like score printing, like all of the new score features. There's loads there that we could go into. If you want access to all of those, then there's really no reason to not upgrade. And the beauty is if you're still on Studio One 4, you can safely upgrade to Studio One 5 because the 2 install to different folders within your Presonus folder. So within your Presonus folder, you have a Studio One 4 folder and a Studio One 5 folder, which means the 2 can peacefully coexist. Which means if you find that your particular computer, your particular system has issues, and it may be compatibility with Studio One 5, then you just go back to Studio One 4. It's not a problem. The only problem really is that any songs that you either bring in from 4 into 5 and then you save them in Studio One 5, you can no longer open them in Studio One 4. And likewise, if you start something brand new in Studio One 5, you can't open it in Studio One 4. Because the file type, the file extension is ever so slightly different. So yeah, I hope that helps answer that question. Mika says, demoing MIDI files for Studio One, you need an instrument track, and it needs to be selected and active with a sound loaded. Yes, absolutely correct, which is what I showed. Bob Studio says, could it be possible that the connection to internet, that the constant pinging to internet while recording could be an issue? I've never found that to be an issue, and I've been using Studio One for 6 years, and you know, because this Jonny Lipsham Studios is my business, I have to be connected to the internet all the time. And also because I work at Presonus, I'm working remotely from here, and I'm remotely logged in to the Presonus servers. So I have to be constantly on the internet. I've never had an issue with being on the internet and recording. Just not a thing. Never been a thing for me. That's not to say that might not happen for you. Let's see. Cleon says, I had problems at first, but now 5.1 seems rock solid. Deleting my settings files helped. Yep, sometimes it's absolutely the thing to do. DJ Vivaldi says, using Studio One 5.1 and it is very creative. Absolutely it is. Alan says, the more third-party VSTs, the more chance of instabilities and crashes. Save regularly. Yes, absolutely. Mika says, ever since 4.1, Studio One has been more stable with the Wi-Fi turned off. That may well be your experience. It depends what you've got going on with your Wi-Fi. For me, I have my studio 100% 24/7 completely connected to the internet, running all the time, and I'm working in Studio One for between 13 and 18 hours every single day. No problems. None. No crashes, no wibbles, no wobbles, nothing. It's absolutely 100% reliable. So I think it depends upon how your internet is working, and it also depends upon, you know, are you using things like a third-party firewall software? Are you using something like Avast or McAfee or Kaspersky or any of those third-party antivirus software packages that, you know, they not only handle antivirus, but they also are anti-malware, or they may even have a VPN built into them, or they might have any of those kind of things. Those kind of software absolutely can and do play havoc with DAWs and how they work and how they operate, especially if you're using services like ARA, like Studio One does, like Bitwig now does, like Logic I think is about to. Because those third-party software, one of the things they can do is they can if you're on a Windows PC, they can delete registry entries. Because they think, that registry entry looks a bit funky, I will delete it. And so the software does that. What they don't realize, what this software doesn't realize, is that, hey, that registry entry is essential for Studio One to work properly. It doesn't know that. And so, if you're on a Mac, the same can certainly be true, except there's no registry entries on a Mac, but there are preferences settings and preferences files. And those can get deleted as well. And then that means that Studio One doesn't work properly. So what we tend to do is kind of in Persona support, is we tend to not recommend you run a third-party antivirus software. If you have a VPN service, and I know a lot of people do, because a lot of people care very passionately about their safety and security online, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're running something like a VPN or a proxy server, just turn it off when you're running Studio One. We see a lot of people saying that they, hey, I've got real stability problems with Studio One. And then, we go and we look in their system file and we see something like NordVPN. We say, hey, just disable your VPN service and then start running Studio One again. And then they come back saying, hey, that fixed it. Antivirus and anti-malware software is great. And by and large, they do a really good job at protecting your computer from viruses and malware. And proxy servers mean that you can probably protect all of your financials and your banking data as well. They're all great. They just don't particularly work very well with DAWs. So turn those things off when you're using Studio One. When you close down Studio One, you can start them up again. That's my general advice on that subject. Cleon says, I have Studio One 4.6 still installed and had 5.02 and 5.1 installed. I no longer use 5.02, but you can use different versions. Yes, you absolutely can. I have installers on this computer for Studio One 2, Studio One 3, Studio One 4, and Studio One 5. And I can flip between any of those that I want to or need to for support purposes. That's not to say that we support Studio One, 2, and 3 anymore, because we don't. But 4 and 5, absolutely, I have those running all the time. But I have 3 and 2 available, because when I'm on Facebook, sometimes people ask questions about Studio One 2 and Studio One 3, because there are folks still out there that are still using Studio One 2 and Studio One 3, and they're very happy. And that's great. That's great that they are happy and they are satisfied with being on Studio One 2, or they're satisfied with being on Studio One 3, or maybe they just want to stay on Windows 7. And it may well be that they've completely disconnected their computer from the internet, which is the best thing to do, by the way, if you're running Windows 7, and they're happy staying on Studio One 2 or Studio One 3. You just won't be able to upgrade anymore. And you'll not be able to access technical support from Presonus anymore, because we don't support those products anymore. But yeah, that's my view of the internet. Bossy said, yes, I run a few versions of Studio One. Yeah, my internet is not a problem with running Studio One. And as I say, I run Studio One for 18 hours a day. My computer is permanently connected to the internet. The internet is permanently on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 12 months out of the year, 52 weeks, non-stop, no problems whatsoever. Let's see. Leon says, no, the internet connection has never affected me either. I also use Splice, which freely backs up Studio One projects. Yes, it does. I also have Backblaze backing up constantly, and Studio One works fine. Let's see. I use FreeAvast and VPN and never had a problem. Yeah, I mean, for most people, they will create problems. And I would say 90% of the time when we encounter issues with folks, we go on their we go into their system files and we say just turn those things off, and then Studio One runs a lot better for them than it did before. And that's because, you know, those kind of software, they can delete registry files, and they do. I've seen it happen. Let's see. What else do we have here? Kyle is out. Good night, Kyle. Take care, buddy. Mike says, I use Windows Defender only. Yep, me too. Don't have any issues involving Studio One when it's running. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Windows Defender is actually way better than everybody thinks. They think, hey, it's built by Microsoft. It's built into the OS. It's not going to be that good, is it? It's not going to be that thorough, is it? Well, yeah, actually it is. And here's the thing. It handles everything that you throw at it, but it does it nice and neatly and tidily in the background. It doesn't get aggressive. And certainly it never bothers Studio One at all. I mean, I used to run Avast, okay? On my old computer, I ran Avast. And I didn't have any crashes with Studio One. But certainly since I have stopped using Avast, Studio One runs faster. It runs better. It starts up faster for a start. You know, so there are things like that to think about. For sure. Bobsy just says, yes, I run Windows 7 Pro Fedora. Call me crazy. Okay, you're crazy. No, I'm kidding. If you're on Windows 7 on your DAW computer, make sure it is completely and utterly disconnected from the internet. And if you need to do updates or upgrades, you are kind of stuck at Studio One 4. Because Studio One 5 and on upwards and forwards into the future is never going to work on Studio One, on Windows 7. The installers just won't even run. But that's fine. If that's where you want to be, that's fine. That's funny, Mika. Mike Johnson says, thanks for the tip about the second ruler and timeline. I'll start using that for my TV and film scoring projects. Awesome. I'm glad that helped. And certainly, I think over the next couple of weeks, we will look at a few more Studio One 5.1 features, and I'll go into a lot more detail about them. I don't have any problems with doing that at all. Mike says, my computer overall runs better with no third-party garbage antivirus installed. Yeah, I would absolutely concur that experience. That has been my experience as well. Studio One just runs better. And I tell you, I never had any crashes before, but I did used to get CPU spikes, even though I knew that my system was completely optimized for audio. And I shouldn't be getting CPU spikes. And if I looked in the Studio One Performance Monitor, there was no reason to be getting CPU spikes at all. But as soon as I shut the Avast off, those spikes went away, and I've never seen them since. So there is a correlation there. Cleon asks, do you run Intel or AMD config? I'm looking to get a new computer and thinking about the best approach for Studio One 5. Does Studio One 5 utilize all the cores? Studio One 5 definitely does utilize all the cores. But here's the caveat to that statement. If you load up a single channel with a lot of plugins, they will only be processed on one core. And you can do exactly the same in Reaper, you can do the same in Logic, you can do the same in Cubase, in a whole bunch of other DAWs, and likely you'll have exactly the same behavior. Particularly as we're talking about Windows computers, and that is just the way it is. It's the way Windows computers are designed to run. And there's not a darn thing we can do about it. But I run an Intel what the hell is it? i7, I think. I can't remember. I think it's an i7. I have my computer built by a pro audio company called Scan Computers. And they are based here in the UK. They're down in England. They're not too terribly far away from here in Edinburgh. You know, it's like a 4.5 hour drive down there. And they built me a really, really darn good computer. I told them what I needed and what I was using the computer for, and they built it in, I think, 5 days. And then it came up on a courier. And it works like a dream. It's a great, great machine. This is the second computer I've had built by Scan. And both times they have built absolutely rock solid computers. I have 16 gigs of RAM in this guy. The other guy had 8, but I've doubled up. I've got 16 in here, and the processor is like 4.5 gigahertz or something like that. It's pretty fast, and everything runs off solid state drives. I have 2 solid state drives, and then I have 2 other 7200 RPM spinning drives. And that's me for storage and everything else. Let's see. Mike Johnson says, I run AMD Ryzen 3900X and it's fast and no issues at all. Mika says, learn VST distribution and you'll have better core distribution. 5.x is the best so far on Macs as long as you get the hang of plugin distribution. Yeah, absolutely. That is an excellent point. So each channel runs on one core. No, that's not true at all. It doesn't quite work like that. But the more instantiations of different plugins on a single channel, and you will load up one core. It's not that each channel runs on its own core. It's how distribution works. So, you know, if I go back over to my other song, I don't have very many plugins, as you can see. I don't tend to use an awful lot of plugins. But if I was to say, take this trumpet part here, this trumpet channel here, and if I was just to load it up with every single one of my FabFilter plugins, and then all of my Klanghelm plugins, and then all of my Plugin Alliance plugins, all on the one channel here. And I was to load this up with like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plugins. Eventually, this performance monitor here will be in the red, and everything will be extremely crackly and distorted. And really, to be honest, if you've got 10 plugins on every channel, my honest opinion is you need to strip it all out and start again. because you are killing your song and you are killing your mix. For 98% of music, you're never going to need 10 plugins on every channel. And if you do, you are probably destroying your mix. And you're probably destroying the original recordings, to be honest. If you have to have 5 EQs and 5 compressors in series on any channel, and like, 3 different saturators or whatever, you are probably doing something considerably wrong, and it's probably not going to sound that good. My rule of thumb for mixing is less is more. Give the music room to breathe. If you need 5 EQs, or you find yourself, and you know what? It's so easy to do it. You drag in an EQ, you go, there are still these frequencies that just don't sound good, so you bring in another one, and you've used all 5 bands here, all 5 bands here, and by the time you've got like 5 EQs, and you're just like, but it still doesn't sound right. Turn them all off, listen to the original source sound again in context, and then rip it all out. Delete everything, remove every plugin from the channel, and start again. It's very easy to do. Let's see, what else do we have? Bob Studios says, I don't think personas can distribute processes to cores. Beg to differ on that one. Mika says, tracks connect to channels, buses, effects, outs. Depending upon your configuration of all of these will affect your core distribution. Keeping digital paths as discrete as possible helps. That is very good. Very good stuff. That is very good information. Yeah, there is no specific menu option about distributing across cores in Studio One. So you're not going to see it. There isn't one. But that's not to say that does not take place under the hood inside the audio engine and inside the software, because it does. It does. I mean, one of the big feature requests for Studio One 4.5 was to improve the distribution and improve performance, particularly of VST instruments and how they are loaded onto cores. And we did that. And, there are no menu options or boxes to check to allow these things to happen. They're not optional. They are built in to the software. So I hope that helps you. Cleon says, I got you. Most of the times we make wrong decisions during mixing because we can't hear it properly. Yeah. Slate VSX changed that for me. Put on the new listen bus and mix away. I've used fewer plugins. Yes, things like that can certainly make a difference. But another thing that can really make a difference, and I'm going to finish with this because we've kind of overrun a bit, but hey, the show started an hour earlier, so I don't mind running over a little bit. A really good thing that was taught to me early on when I started mixing in the 1990s, and that was work in chunks. And he coined a little phrase for it, and he called it what was it he called it? Checkpoint mixing. That's it, checkpoint mixing. And what he meant by that was he meant reach a certain point in your mix and then stop. Mute all of your bypass all of your plugins, bypass everything you have done up to that point. Move away from your desk, hit play, move away from your desk and listen to the whole thing all the way through. And then roll back up, turn your plugins back on, and listen all the way through again to the whole song. And this way, when you get to that point, I do it in 10-minute blocks. And I set a timer for this. once I've set up all the mix and I'm ready to start, I set a timer for 10 minutes and I mix for 10 minutes. And as soon as that timer stops, I hit the stop button. Even if I'm right in the middle of doing something, I hit the stop button and I bypass all the plugins. The cool thing about Studio One is that there is just a single button and you just hit that and it turns everything off. And then you roll back to the beginning of the song and you hit play. And you hit play without any plugins turned on, including reverbs and delays, ambient effects, any ambient effects like that. Amp sims, get them turned off as well. And listen through to the whole thing, completely dry. And then come back and turn them back on. And what this will do is this will help you to evaluate where you are with your mix, how far you've got, and what you've done in those 10 minutes. And it will help you kind of refocus and enable you to kind of do the next, go to the next checkpoint. And for me, it helps me stay on track and not get distracted by minutiae or get distracted by details or get distracted by which plugin I'm going to use on which vocal or what have you. Instead of getting kind of stuck in kind of working on a tiny little fraction of a second of a song for 2 hours, or, spending 2 hours trying to get the snare drum to sound great. Or have that kick drum have all of that nice full body to it and yet have plenty of snap with the beater striking the head. And you can spend ages trying to perfect that. And you get so caught up in the kick drum that you lose sense of perspective of the whole song. And so working in 10-minute blocks like that enables you to stop, take a step back, listen to how the whole thing sounds. And then you can go back into zeroing in. And it helps you make sure that you're mixing in context. Even if you do have something soloed for a portion of your 10-minute block, it means that you're able to unsolo, listen to the whole thing in context. And you can evaluate a little bit and go, okay, this still needs a little bit of this, or actually, that sounds really great now. So there you go. That's what I think on that subject. Mike Johnson says, also try to use sends or bus channels for groups with similar sounds, vocals, for example, to not have the same plugins across multiple channels. Yep, absolutely. Definitely do that for reverbs and delays. Any ambient effects. Have them as sends. Have them as, have them all set up as sends. I've only got one reverb channel for this whole song. There it is, room reverb. But you can see how I've got lots of channels that are being sent to this reverb. So the whole band sound like they're playing in the same room, in the same stage. So it gives it a little bit of a kind of live band kind of ambience to it. But yeah, if you start stacking up EQ, reverbs and delays as inserts, you will run out of juice very quickly. That is a great, great point. And I think we'll finish with that. Thanks very much, everybody, for coming and checking out this show. It's been good. You guys have asked some great questions. And we will do some more Studio One 5.1 next week. If you have any particular features that you have learned about in Studio One 5.1 that you want to see in a little bit more detail, then certainly please do let me know, either in the comments down below or email johnny@johnnylipshamstudios.co.uk. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell and choose all notifications. That way you'll get notifications of these shows and any extra videos that I do, which I will be doing more of, by the way. Now that things are kind of settling down a little bit more, I can get my time back for making videos, which is great. And also, if you have not been over to jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk and grabbed your free compression course, please head over there right now and hit that red Get Your Course Now button. And that will get you a brand new compression course that I did just a few months ago, just like last year. So go and get that, and I will see you all next week. Good night.